To another CPC strategy hosted webinar. If this is your first CPC strategy webinar, welcome, and we hope to see you in some upcoming webinar events. Just to give everybody a heads up before we start, we do have a little bit of lag when it comes to video, so if there's any audio lag or any video lag for you, the audience, please feel free to let us know in the panel GoToWebinar in the chat or in the question box, and feel free to shoot over and we can try to attempt to fix it on our end. But today we are talking about capturing demand and driving high value external traffic to your Amazon store. So what we mean by external traffic is off Amazon traffic. So whether that's Google to Bing and Facebook. So we'll be going over how and where to focus your advertising efforts. So you'll be hearing actionable tips from our speakers to hopefully help you brainstorm a new strategy for web to Amazon to bring more customers to your brand store page. So I'd like to introduce myself. I'm Annalicia. I'm the CPC Strategy Webinar Coordinator. Before you ask, all session slides will be sent to all the registrants within 48 hours. So if you do not receive the landing page with the recording and the slides, please feel free to send us an email and we'll get it to you as soon as possible. Another thing to note is we'll be having a poll question in a couple of slides just to kind of get a feel of how many of you have an Amazon store and how many of you are already working on a web to Amazon sort of strategy if you're tracking or if you're trying to drive more traffic to your Amazon page. And another thing to note as well, on the GoToWebinar panel on the right, there's a question tab. So feel free to send in your questions. I'll be handling all of them on the back end, posing them to our speakers during the presentation if it fits to what they're talking about. And at the end, we'll have a section of Q&A. So we'll try to get to all of your questions. There will be plenty, I'm sure, and there will be some that we won't be able to answer, but we'll try to get to all of them as much as we can. So talking a little bit about CPC strategy. Before we get started, I want to introduce our company and our positioning in the e-commerce landscape, if we can. Rob, might you be able to click for me to the next slide? So CPC Strategy was founded in 2007, so we're just over 10 years old. We have over 500 active retail clients that span across consumer goods to other products and services, and we are a retail-focused paid search management company, and we focus in the realms of Facebook performance marketing, Google Shopping, retail-focused paid search in the world of Google as well as Bing, and Amazon sales acceleration, as well as creative services and content optimization. So I will now let Rob and Ryan, our two speakers, introduce themselves to the audience. Ooh. Rob and Ryan, if you want to introduce.
Sorry, I'll let you take control.
Oh, no worries, no worries.
Yeah, so my name is Rob Shepard. I'm a retail sales search manager here at CPC Strategy. I've been doing a lot of work with web to Amazon, so I'll be lending my expertise to today's call.
Great. Yeah, my name is Ryan Burgess. I'm a senior marketplace channel analyst on the Amazon side, working a lot with Amazon vendors through AMS. And so coordinating with Rob and the other departments here to develop this web to Amazon strategy and handling that Amazon portion of things. So I'll be able to comment on that during today's webinar.
Great, thank you both. So before we get into the nitty gritty and the content, I'm gonna go ahead and launch the poll question. So to our audience members, this poll question should take over your entire screen. So just feel free to answer the question. And I know Rob and Ryan, you won't be able to see the poll, but you are aware of the question and I'll let you know the results. So the question is, do you currently have a strategy for driving off Amazon traffic to your Amazon brand store? So this is just to get a feel of how many of you do have an Amazon store and do have a web to Amazon strategy or not, just so Rob and Ryan can kind of tailor their messaging accordingly. So do you boys have an idea as to what the majority of our audience would be today?
Yeah, we were talking a little bit about this earlier. We'd imagine that some people have experimented with the idea, but up until now, it's been kind of hard to have a formal strategy around this. So I'd imagine that most people would lie within that realm.
Yeah, I think a lot of people want to drive external traffic from Google, from Facebook to Amazon, but might not be sure how they can do that and how they can measure the results. So if that's the case, hopefully there will be some learnings that we can distribute across to you guys today and help you figure out what the details are to set up those types of campaigns.
So I'm going to reveal the results now, but I will say that you guys are correct. So let me share the results with the audience. So almost 60% of our audience is a no, 15%, 16% actually is a no because they do not have an Amazon brand store, but surprisingly 27%, which is a really good amount of you already do have a web to Amazon strategy in place. So hopefully Rob and Ryan can provide some actionable tactics to help you all strengthen or maybe just start building out your web to Amazon strategy. So just to go over today's agenda before I hand it over to Rob and Ryan to take it from here, we're going to go over basically breaking down the benefits of web to Amazon, why you should be implementing the strategy, why it's beneficial to you as a seller. Ryan will also be going over the performance insights on Amazon stores, as well as the limitations to those store insights and what you can see and what you can't see in regards to reporting. And then Rob will talk about implementing your web to Amazon strategy and kind of how to start your strategy and some tips from the expert himself, and then some final takeaway tips, as well as a time for Q&A. So I will now, without further ado, pass it on over to Ryan, who will introduce web to Amazon to you.
Great, thank you, Alicia. Let's go ahead and get started here. So first, we're going to talk about the breakdown and the benefits of web to Amazon, why we're even talking about this in the first place, why it's something that we think is important for Amazon sellers nowadays. So first of all, when we say web to Amazon, what is it that we're talking about? Well, we're talking about driving off Amazon traffic to your Amazon brand store specifically. I know that there's been strategies in the past of driving traffic to detail pages, product detail pages on Amazon, or to other locations, category pages, things like that. But for our web to Amazon approach, we like to drive that traffic straight to the Amazon brand store. And we'll talk about why in a minute here. But before we move on, you can see we've got this little flow chart here of all the different traffic sources, or at least a few that you can send to Amazon. Today's webinar will be focusing mostly on the Google AdWords side of this. So sending Google and Google AdWords text ads to Amazon brand stores. Facebook and Bing will be covered in later sessions. But without further ado, let's jump into it. So why should we be driving traffic to your Amazon brand store? Lots of reasons for this. A lot of brands, a few brands exist mainly on Amazon. So, if you don't have your own e-com site, you don't have your own Shopify site, or if you do, but, conversion hasn't been that great, Amazon is your main primary sales channel. So sending traffic to Amazon makes sense for you. Even if you are a brand that has multiple sales channels online, we have the statistic over here on the right that says 51% of shoppers start their search off Amazon. This was conducted by an internet retailer survey that says, only 49% of searches start on Amazon. So by default, if you're only advertising on Amazon, you're only capturing about half those searches. So we need to kind of expand our horizons, try to capture those searches that are starting on Google, starting on Facebook. In addition to that, Amazon has a reputation. They have that competitive advantage. These are all things that you guys know as Amazon sellers and Amazon businesses. Amazon has a reputation of being a conversion engine. Your conversion rate is going to be higher here than probably anywhere else, and probably by a large percentage. So sending traffic to your Amazon store might convert better than it does sending it to your own e-com store. These are just a few of the reasons. Also things like boosting your organic rank. There's no hard data behind this, but it's been shown that external traffic is weighted more favorably in the organic ranking algorithm internally at Amazon. So whether it is weighted more heavily or equal, more traffic is better. Amazon likes more traffic. They like more conversions. They like higher conversion rates. Anything you can do to send more traffic to your pages is going to help that organic rank, help your sales overall. These are just a few reasons why you want to send traffic externally to Amazon, especially if you've already covered all of the inbound traffic from Amazon itself. Now, if you've tried a web to Amazon strategy in the past, or even if you haven't, you might be wondering, how do you measure this? Amazon is notorious for not sharing data. As you guys all know, you're Amazon sellers, data is difficult to get from Amazon. Rob will elaborate that on that later. But how do we track specifically what we're doing in terms of impressions, clicks, page views, sales? Where does that all fall into it? And that answer to that is with Amazon Brand Stores, and specifically with this new feature, relatively new feature called Brand Store Insights. Now, we've done some webinars and some other information blasts before on what Brand Store Insights is, and we've actually dove really deep into the details. We won't dive that deep today. What we'll cover is how we use Brand Store Insights, how you can set it up, and how you should use it with a web to Amazon strategy specifically. If you're not familiar, if you have an Amazon Brand Store through AMS or through Seller Central, wherever you've set it up, you also have what's a portal called Brand Store Insights, and this is basically where you're going to get all of the reporting for your brand store. It breaks down traffic between source, between page. It tells you whether traffic to this page was organic, meaning it came from your detail pages without you paying for that traffic, whether it came from a headline search ad, whether you're running that in AMS or Seller Central, or whether it came from tagged traffic, which we'll talk about in a second here. It also gives you that level of detail on which page of your brand store that traffic is coming from, which is something that's unique to Amazon. As you guys know, they don't give this data out very frequently, at least not in this granularity. So this is really crucial to your brand store and to your web to Amazon strategies. More specifically, here are the main key metrics that are now available for brand stores. We've got on the left, these are the metrics by traffic source and page. So Amazon will tell you sales. This is crucial. Previous to Brand Store Insights, there was no way for us to track sales metrics from external advertising efforts. It just didn't exist. Amazon's not going to share that data with Google for obvious reasons, but you can now track that with source tags. So you can get sales on direct and halo sales, and it's attributed to that source and to the page that it originally came from. Direct sales, if you haven't heard that term before, direct sales are basically sales from products that appeared on the page that the customer viewed before purchasing, and halo sales would be other products in your brand that are not contained on that specific store page. And it does break it down between the two, so you can see if you're getting those direct sales or not. It also gives you units sold, daily visitors, views per visitor, views overall, lots of important metrics that can help you decide improvements, do A/B testing on the content of your store page to make sure it's fully optimized for sending that external traffic to it. Now, I've talked a lot about these tagged sources and about the different traffic sources that you can send to a brand store. I've got these listed over here on the right.
Hey, Ryan.
Basically, you're going to go through, the first two are pretty obvious.
Sorry about that. The slides are not moving.
Yeah,
Do you see something on your screen? Are the slides changing for you?
It should be on metrics and traffic sources now available.
Okay, so we've been lagged for a little bit in respect to slides, so I just want to, let's try maybe. Apologies, everyone. Sorry for the technical difficulties. It must be with the bandwidth of the webcam. So right now we're still, the slide that we're seeing is why drive traffic to Amazon versus your site. So maybe let's put the webcam aside and see if that helps with the advancing of the slides.
All right, let's give that a whack.
Let's try it.
My apologies to the audience. Let's see if this works a little bit better. So it's still stuck in the why drive traffic to your Amazon site versus your site. So maybe now it will link up. Hopefully, please bear with us.
Do we still have?
Sorry, Rob. Go ahead.
Are we still the presenter?
Yeah, it's still on that same teal screen. So let's see. If you maybe want to get out of presentation mode and then click back into the Google Slides by chance.
Yep, doing so now.
Let's see if that works. So sorry, everyone. I see all your comments coming in about the slides. So let's see. Hopefully this works. Have you clicked out of it, Rob?
Is it looking any better now? Yeah, I clicked out and I'm back in now.
Okay, so we still see, let me see if I can, for some reason.
Oh, it actually just flipped back to limitations to strategy. Is it moving now?
No, for me, it's still stuck. So let's see. The audience is saying no, it's still stuck as well. So I'm going to see if I can try to do.
Okay.
Let's see. Let's see if we can switch it over to my computer. 1 second, everyone. Let's see if I can do. Oh, okay. You know what? Now I saw it. Let's go. Let's see if I can pass it back to you because last minute. I'm going to hand it right back over to you because as we exit it out. Rob and Ryan?
Yeah.
Okay, cool. I think I handed over the presenter role to you again. Do you see that? Do you mind maybe accepting and seeing if it works?
I haven't gotten that notification. 1 second.
Okay, okay, there we go. So now the slide that we see is metrics and traffic sources now available. Is that the
Perfect.
slide?
And is it moving? Are we able to actually change slides now?
So,
Are you seeing that the slides have changed?
no, I do not see that the slide is changing.
Okay. It should say limitations to Amazon Store Insights.
We still see metrics and traffic sources. Okay, let me see. I'm gonna try again to do it on my computer and see if that changes anything. Again, my apologies to the audience. This never happens. This is a crazy lag. Okay, we do see limitations to Amazon Store Insights now.
Okay. Are the slides moving?
No, they are not. Okay. I'm gonna try for real now on my
Okay.
end to be the presenter. Let's see.
Yeah, let's do that.
Okay, everyone, let's see. Hopefully this will work. View full screen. Okay, so let's see. Okay, can everyone see my screen? Yes, I hear. Okay, thank you
Awesome.
everyone for your patience. Our sincere apologies. Okay, so Rob, just let me know when you want to click on to next. If you want on your computer, you can look at your slides. But right now we're on tags for automatic attribution. Is that okay with you?
Let's go back 1 slide. I'll just let you know when we can change slides moving forward. Sorry about the informal approach, everybody.
Our sincere apologies. So now we're on
Awesome.
the title slide page, limitations to Amazon Store Insights.
Perfect. All right, so let's pick things up back there.
Okay.
Thank you, Ryan, for that great explanation. Kind of building on what Ryan was saying, you know, reporting through Amazon has always kind of been limited. And because of that, a lot of our strategy for Web to Amazon has to be based on the limitations that we're given. And when we take all that in mind, it's important to know what the building blocks of reportable strategy are going to be for your Web to Amazon traffic. So if we go to the next slide.
Okay.
We're able to see our Amazon source tags. What these tags are, as Ryan had mentioned earlier, these are the things that are actually showing up under tag sources in those store insights. A tag is really the unique URL that you're able to create and place within your individual ad, whether on Facebook or through AdWords or Bing. And then once either traffic begins to come through that, sales begins to come through that, this is what's actually segmented out within tag sources. So these are the things that you're able to measure. And in that sense, that's kind of why they'd be considered the building blocks. Some important things to keep in mind. Essentially, when you're building the URL, you want to send people to the different category pages on your storefront, which is why we're seeing that store ID highlighted in that yellowish orange. And then the source tag, which is that kind of neon blue near the end, that's the unique tag that you're able to add. And that's what's actually segmented out when you look into tag sources on that storefront. Some important things to keep in mind, which I'll explain in much more detail later. your immediate instinct might be to create many different tags. Let's get measuring all of these different aspects. But in reality, Amazon only provides a breakdown of the top 30 tags, meaning that you're only able to get performance data on up to 30 different categories within any of your campaigns that you're sending to Amazon. That might be a little bit of a confusing point. I'll continue to speak to that as we move forward in the slides, but feel free to let us know if you have any questions surrounding that. We can go to the next slide. Some additional limitations, like I said, a lot of this has to do with the information that Amazon is able to provide us. And then based on that, we're able to really develop our web to Amazon strategy. As I said, Store Insights only provides data on up to the top 30 tags. On the other hand, additionally, each tag or each of those unique URLs requires at least 100 views or 100 clicks if we're thinking about from AdWords in order for them to be segmented. This means that if I'm looking back on last week's performance, let's say that we launched a couple new URLs, we have those built in our AdWords campaigns. If those campaigns and those individual URLs did not have 100 clicks, they'll unfortunately fall under the category of other tags and not be segmented from the rest of the data within tag sources. I've got some more screenshots later on that can kind of show what this looks like in real life. But in reality, a lot of our strategy comes from a balancing act between deciding what we want to measure and then slowly scaling forward in the number of tags that we're executing on. Because if you start too granularly, you in reality won't be able to see much data segmented out for a long time period. Additionally, it's a little bit difficult to see sometimes, but different than a lot of the other ways that Amazon will attribute a sale. The last source of the customer visit is actually what's going to get the credit on Amazon Store Insights, meaning that if somebody came through one of our campaigns, they came through one of those tagged URLs, if they don't convert directly on that first visit and they later come back through organic's actually going to get credit for that sale. What this essentially means is that we need to be looking at metrics beyond what Store Insights can provide, because a lot of what the power of these campaigns holds is not going to be represented within the actual Store Insights. Last two caveats and things to keep in mind with the limitations. Very important that you maintain buy box dominance. You can think of a situation where, since AdWords or Facebook don't communicate essentially with each other from interface to interface, there's going to be no way to know if on the AdWords side, if you're sending traffic to a page where you're no longer hold the buy box, meaning that you could potentially be paying to send traffic to a different company. In addition to that, in terms of unnecessary spend for traffic, it's also important to be attentive to inventory. Unlike a typical AdWords campaign or typical Amazon campaign where campaigns will automatically be turned off if that product's no longer in stock, there's no way for AdWords essentially to know if there's no inventory left on the category page of your storefront. So if you do have any outages, you must be aware of that and make sure to pause your campaigns just to ensure that you're not doing any unnecessary spend.
Hi, Rob. So
all right, we can move to the next slide.
We're getting a few questions in regards to the tagging. Sure. So for the buy box dominance, Scott was asking, so he sells in Vendor Central and in Seller Central. And the traffic that he sends to the brand stores directs to products on his third-party selling. So do those sales not show up in Brand Store Insights? Is that, what can you advise on what the limitations are for a vendor versus your 3P, and if you have both, maybe which one is better to direct traffic to, so that you are viewing, so you're viewing the Store Insights, and so you're getting that attribution.
Yeah.
Definitely. Yeah, this is Ryan. I can actually tackle that portion of the question. So if you have both a Vendor Central and a Seller Central account, it depends on where you're running the majority of your Amazon ads through and how your accounts are set up. So Basically, you can have a store through AMS, which would be the vendor side, or you can have a store through Seller Central, which would be the Seller Central side. Either way, brand halo sales are going to be tracked through the brand name. So if you have the same brand name across both accounts, let's say your brand name is, brand, for example. If brand is your name across all of them, then those traffic sales would be accounted across both, whether it's through Vendor Central or Seller Central. That being said, the buy box or the brand stores are not buy box sensitive, meaning, and as Rob was mentioning, Google is not buy box sensitive. So as long as one of your offers, whether it's 1P or 3P, is in the buy box and the brand is the same for the same item, your sales should be tracked. It gets tricky if you have different brand names. If you're selling different products, you would need to set up 2 different AMS stores, one for Seller Central, one for Vendor Central, in order to be sure that your sales are being tracked. Rob, did you have anything to add there?
No, I think that kind of covers it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then does AdWords
Any other questions?
Yeah, does AdWords
Yep, go
require
ahead.
you to send traffic to a domain you own, or can you drive traffic in AdWords to your Amazon page? I'm guessing you can if this is the strategy, right?
Right. So that's something we'll touch on a little bit later, and it's actually why search ads or text ads tend to be the ones that we have to use in regards to this strategy. If you were to think about something along the lines of Google Shopping, where you have to register that domain, and in addition to that, your product feed would include URLs that, in theory, in this case, would direct to Amazon. That's something that you won't be able to do since you're not able to actually register the Amazon domain. So because of that, that's why we do stick to search ads or text ads for the majority of our web to Amazon strategy.
Okay.
Because in that case, you are able to send traffic to storefront.
Okay. Thank you for addressing those questions, Rob and Ryan. So I'll click over to the next slide.
Perfect. All right, so as I was mentioning before, strategy is built off limitations in this case. Kind of covered a lot of those limitations, and they'll keep recurring as I continue to present through this section. Keep those questions coming. If there's anything that doesn't make sense that I've said, please feel free to let us know, and we can take the time to address any of those issues. And next slide. Perfect. So I think it's important with your web to Amazon strategy to really take a step back. So we know essentially that we're able to measure up to 30 things through the Amazon interface. What can that mean for your your total performance as a company is up to you essentially. It's important to evaluate where in the overall marketing funnel you would like for these campaigns to land. And the reason that that's important, I'll address a little bit more further down the road, but web to Amazon is a great supplement to any strategy, and it can be a great way to grow your Amazon sales, but you need to be thinking about what traffic you want directed towards your site. If you already have a strong AdWords performance, what kind of traffic do you want sent to the storefront? And those are the kind of evaluations you need to be making prior to building anything out. In a lot of cases, it might be smart to approach this as an upper funnel type campaign, lots of prospecting, bidding on keywords that might not include your trademark phrase or any of your brands, just looking to generate some buzz and, get some more branding awareness surrounding that. In a lot of other cases, it can be a good way to supplement, your overall sales. And that's when the mid and lower funnel would come into play. But something you need to keep in mind is the keywords that you'll be potentially bidding on through this AdWords account. What I mean by this is if you do have web to Amazon campaigns created within the same AdWords account as your other search campaigns, and these search campaigns are bidding on the same keywords as your web to Amazon campaigns, AdWords will only be able to assign a search term or a search query one bid from your account. Essentially meaning if you've got both kinds of campaigns running, the Google results page is only going to display one of your advertisements. Because of that, it's important to discuss this next slide in a little bit more depth. And do you mind moving to the next one?
Yep.
Perfect. So when it comes to your web to Amazon strategy, and because of the things that I was just discussing, it might be necessary to actually create a web to Amazon specific AdWords account. Some of the main benefits of this is that you're able to bid on the same keywords that you are in your prior search campaigns. Meaning that if you want to bid on your trademark term so that if anybody were to search for your particular brand or your store name, you can pop up essentially in 2 different advertising listings. You could have a campaign that would direct traffic to your website, and then if you stagger your bids appropriately, you can also have web to Amazon listings showing below that. This is a great way to ensure that you don't cannibalize your own sales by only showing one or the other listings. In addition to that, it really helps you to own the Google search engine results page, meaning that, if you have Google shopping listings already running, you have this text campaign that directs traffic to your site, and now you have these web to Amazon campaigns, you can essentially put all other companies below the fold and really dominate the results page. Of course, with any sort of new AdWords account, there comes some drawbacks. Things that seem worthwhile to mention is that you'll essentially be starting from scratch in terms of the relevancy and the quality score on any of your keyword bidding, any of your ad copy, anything along those lines. So your CPCs on your web to Amazon specific account or your bids are likely going to have to be a little bit higher, at least initially, until you do build up that relevancy once again. Beyond that, the only other issue with having a separate AdWords account, I don't know how familiar all of you are with looking into Google Analytics, but typically when you do look in Google Analytics, you can see conversion paths that potential consumers have taken on their way to actually buying one of your products. If you're housing campaigns in a separate AdWords account, that inherently means that those web to Amazon campaigns aren't going to show up in those conversion paths. And because of that, those conversion paths are going to be a little bit harder to track, and it's going to undervalue web to Amazon campaigns as a touch point. Next slide.
Should go for you shortly, but.
Perfect.
Okay, great.
So as I was kind of mentioning before, due to various reasons, the top performing ad type is going to be those Google text ads. This is where you're going to be able to most easily house those individual URLs that you've created, or those tags as I keep referring to. Generally, Google text ads convert a lot better than display. And in addition to that, as I mentioned before, you're not able to direct shopping listings to an Amazon URL since you can't verify the Amazon URL. And in that sense, that's why when it comes to AdWords and Bing as well, that's why we see the most success with text ads. And we can move to the next slide. Perfect. So what does this all look like? We've got our building blocks in place. We've got those individual tags made. We've created our actual search campaigns and placed those tags on the individual advertisements that we'd like to track and segment apart from each other. So when we're actually looking into the Amazon Store Insights, what you might see is what Ryan had shown before, various different sources with sales, units sold, and views attributed to each of those different sources. As he also mentioned prior, where the real web to Amazon measurable campaign status can be found is going to be under the tag sources. So we can move to the next slide.
Okay.
So what the tag sources are essentially going to show is those individual tags that you have created, each of which is segmented out and displaying those KPIs, the sales, units sold, and views. And depending on the date range that you're looking at, you're now able to see how each of those individual tags performed, which is where we're really able to now see and report on, what the true performance has been from a web to Amazon strategy. And this is where, the Store Insights has essentially provided that final bridge to making these sort of campaigns a much more viable strategy for many companies out there. An important thing to note, however, you might remember me mentioning previously that it's required for each of those individual tags to have over 100 views in order to have their data segmented out. What this can mean, and if you're looking at this slide closely, you might see under the top sources by sales and the top sources by units sold, at the bottom of both of those kind of black box layered images, you'll see that there's that other tags. Other tags in this instance, I'm looking at a large enough date range with enough views to have all of those different sources, all of those different tags actually segmented out. But if we look at the next slide, we can see what the same data looks like on a 30-day window as opposed to a 7-day window. The 30-day window is that previous screenshot I had shown where we're able to see all of those individual tags actually segmented out. On the other hand, the 7-day window, you can see that we've only had 291 total views. What this means is that only one of our tags was actually able to be segmented out because only one of the individual tags crossed that 100 view threshold. Based on that, all of the other metrics is essentially lumped into that other tags option that you're able to see there. It's unfortunate, but essentially this means that the scaling of these campaigns is very time sensitive if you're not willing to spend a lot of money up front and really generate a lot of traffic immediately. And so a lot of A/B testing is required and a lot of time is required essentially to sort of roll out these different tags and find which tags are performing better because it does require a larger time window to be able to see this specific data. Maybe you can go to the next slide. So with all of that in mind, some careful considerations to have. You know, I've touched on this point several times before, but it really is a true balancing act. You know, we're limited to 30 tags, and at the same time, those tags are only segmented out at 100 views. Because of that, I would recommend in your initial build to really start broad. You know, maybe only have each campaign have one tag associated with it. And that way you're able to measure overall campaign performance prior to essentially isolating out what you might view as being your higher performers and assigning different tags to either that specific ad copy or those different product groups. Also for your initial build, I'd highly recommend that you refer to both your Amazon and your AdWords keyword performance. Depending on which channel you find that you have the most traffic, that's going to be a great place to do some of your initial keyword farming. That's going to be a great place to see what does convert well for you currently. And by layering those into your new web to Amazon campaigns, you're going to be setting yourself up in a better position than you might be otherwise if you were to kind of go seat of the pants in terms of assigning what keywords to give each of these campaigns. Additionally, my last recommendation for your initial build, especially on these text ads, is to be sure to include the other tags that you've created as site links on each of your individual campaigns. What this can essentially do is show the ad that's specific to whatever the search query was. And then in addition to that, your site links will then direct to the other pages of your storefront. And that will allow you to dominate even more of the results page and push everybody else even farther below the fold. We can move to the next slide. So I realize, with all of this in mind, it might be, a bit fuzzy. There's all these tags, all these campaigns. How does this actually get aligned? So that's where AdWords really plays a key role, and it will essentially serve as a hierarchy for how you can keep yourself organized with your build. As I mentioned, you might want to start off with each individual campaign housing just one unique tag, and that URL is used in all of your individual ad copy, maybe to start things off. But we can imagine that you can have these different ad groups within the same campaigns with ad copy that's tailored to the specific products that are on your category pages. And then those ads are going to be served when the search query is appropriately designed or appropriate for that specific ad copy. So I'd highly recommend, before launching into build, really taking a step back and analyzing how you want your build to be created initially, and keep in mind what that might look like if you are able to scale in the future.
So Rob, are you recommending to start out with one tag and seeing how that data shows in your insights before moving on to other tags?
So I guess I should clarify on that a little bit. You know, a good insight to see how performance is doing initially is you might want to do one tag per category page on your storefront. Essentially, how you can have that organized is going to be up to you. If you could have one web to Amazon campaign with 5 different ad groups, each of those ad groups specific to a different category page, and then in your ad copy, you could contain those 5 unique tags. You could also have 5 different campaigns, each with one ad group or multiple ad groups, but each of those ad groups has one tag that's specific to that campaign.
Okay.
Does that kind of make sense? I guess I'll wait for any more questions to come in if I should clarify further on that.
Yeah, I'll keep you posted if I get more questions in respect to that, but I think that covers it for now. I'll switch over to the next slide.
Perfect. Yeah, so what does this really mean then when we're talking about scaling? You know, the data is kind of slow to come in. Amazon's not giving us a lot to work with. But there are some key insights that I've had and some strategies that I've noticed have worked pretty successfully thus far in the web to Amazon execution that we've had here at CPC Strategy. You know, as I mentioned, you might want to start really broad in the tags that you are creating and what campaigns you're assigning them to. But things that are really important to keep in mind, and some opportunities for you in the future, might lie within device segmentation. You know, essentially, you can have a duplicate set of tags if you'd like that are specific to either mobile traffic or desktop traffic. If you typically see in AdWords that one source of traffic performs better than the other, creating a different set of tags to measure that difference once you actually do segment them out can serve to improve efficiency and will help you scale a bit further, you know, but this is a little bit further down the line. Additional to that, pretty typical of any Amazon or AdWords strategy, it's good to find what your high-performing keywords are, and you can essentially bring these out, put an exact match on them, and place them into a new ad group within your current campaigns, and assign them a new tag so that you can see what the performance of those exact match keywords are in comparison to any other keywords that you might be currently testing with. As I mentioned as well, you know, a lot of this based on how slow some of the data is coming in. It's a lot of A/B testing, a lot of slow to scale and experimenting. But don't be discouraged. You know, the initial numbers that you might see, like I said, are going to be undervalued because this is sending traffic to your storefront. You're helping to build your brand. And in addition to that, any traffic that goes to your storefront and later converts through a different means isn't going to be reported. So you might see a very large overall effect, even if you don't see your initial A/B testing proving to be all that successful. And then my last tip of advice, you know, in terms of scaling to the future, is that obviously you're able to import AdWords campaigns into Bing. You can potentially pursue that as well. Whether or not you want to create Bing specific tags to know how much that interface is spending versus AdWords is going to be up to you, but that can be another way to see an increase in traffic as well. And we can move to the next slide. So I'm sure some of you are wondering, and might have come into here with questions more specific to either Bing or Facebook. I touched on Bing a little bit on that last slide, but some things to really keep into consideration if you are going to explore sending Bing traffic to Amazon is to remember that you are limited to 30 tags, meaning that if you already have, let's say, 10 tags running through AdWords, and then you import all of that into Bing and you want to measure Bing separately, that already puts you at 20 unique tags. Just something to keep in mind, you know, Bing can be very good for targeting more B2B type industries and the older demographic. So you can find a lot of success there. My primary recommendation might be to hold off on importing anything to Bing until you're able to have a bit more proven success on AdWords. In addition to that, Facebook is definitely worth talking about, at least for a little bit here. The main drawback to Facebook currently is that tags cannot be measured when coming from the mobile app, which really hurts a lot since so much of Facebook's traffic is coming from a mobile device. Essentially, why this happens is if you're in the Facebook app and you click on one of, you know, an advertisement that might have a tagged source in there, for whatever reason, when you're in the mobile app and it opens up Amazon through the app, that tag gets lost and is not able to be reported on. So Facebook, you know, typical to any form of advertising through Facebook, can be very good for prospecting and building your brand out. You know, this can be a good way to get in front of a lot of consumers, especially if you've got a really detailed audience built out, since Facebook does provide the best audience insights out of any channel. So if you're willing to spend for branding, Facebook can provide a good channel for that, but unfortunately, you can't measure your tags if they're coming from the mobile app. All right, and we can move to the next slide. So with all that in mind, you know, it's really important to take these takeaways from web to Amazon and what we've seen be successful so far. You know, I listed a lot of limitations, but don't let that get you down. There's a lot of different ways to tackle this and be successful. You just have to understand the current limitations and work your way from there. You know, we've only seen that Amazon reporting over the years. While it's not the best now, it was worse before, and so it is slowly getting better. We can hope that as Amazon reporting continues to improve, we'll be able to set ourselves up in a good position to continue to scale on those campaigns. Additionally, it's important, you know, we were talking about whether or not to create a separate AdWords account and all of that. Please just keep in mind, where do you want to place web to Amazon in your overall marketing strategy? If you've got the right niche developed out for it, you can see a lot of success. So it's important to have that prior to kind of diving into any build. My third point was just to start with those top performing keywords for Amazon and AdWords. You know, whichever channels you see perform the best, since you're actually able to get keyword specific performance data through those two channels, it's going to be really good to know what the prior top performers were through those channels and probably start from there. Fourth point would be to target the specific category pages on your Amazon storefront, and that's what your individual tags are going to be created out to help you do. And lastly, as I've harped on many times during this presentation, work your way towards granularity. You might be tempted to create a lot of tags right off the bat, but it's really important to start broad, see what's successful, and then work to improve upon your strengths, since we are only able to see the reported data once it has 100 views or clicks. And with that, we can move to the next slide.
Okay, so that concludes our content for the most part. Just to recap over everything we went over today, again, you know, just breaking down web to Amazon. Hopefully we were able to unpack it a little bit more for you, our audience. Hopefully we were able to kind of dive into the Amazon store insights and as well as the limitations. And hopefully we're able to provide new tactics for your web to Amazon strategy, and, you know, not to be discouraged by the limitations from the Amazon store insights, because there's a lot of potential when it comes to your web to Amazon strategy. So hopefully those last tips help you on your way to start your new web to Amazon strategy. And of course, now we have some time for Q&A. But before we do get there, just want to offer everyone, you know, an evaluation when it comes to Amazon and what CPC can offer you. This is a link. I'll make sure to send it out to all of our audience right now. But just a 60-minute assessment of how you're doing on Amazon and how CPC can help you. I'll be sure to send out that link to you all shortly. But why don't we get to some questions? I know a lot of you are buzzing with some questions for our experts over here. So I'll start off with an easy one for you, Rob, kind of in respect to starting and launching your own web to Amazon strategy. So do you have any advice when it comes to dealing with budgets, and maybe what's the lowest budget that you would advise when it comes to AdWords when you're just testing out, just to not overspend on ad spend, but still kind of optimize your traffic leading to your web to Amazon strategy?
Yeah, so it can be, I hate to answer a question with it depends, but it really does on a multitude of factors. I think really important things to consider when you are approaching web to Amazon is that you do want to view it as an investment, at least up front. It can take some time to figure out what paid traffic is converting the best, since there is a little bit of a lag in terms of seeing which tags are performing the best. So these things can take time to scale. But with that in mind too, we've seen a lot of success on monthly budgets that haven't really been all that high. It's important to keep in mind, depending on how many different category pages you have, how much stuff you're looking to actually measure, you can realistically get up and started on a few different search campaigns sending to web to Amazon traffic on a budget that's around probably $1.5K for the month. If you're looking to really push through the web to Amazon campaigns, you're looking to have this be more of a branding play, I would definitely recommend a higher budget than that. But there's a lot of flexibility in terms of what you can do with these campaigns. The only other thing I'd comment is that we tend to see ACoS be a bit higher through these campaigns for two reasons. One, even though you are directing traffic to Amazon, the initial search wasn't on Amazon. So even though the conversion rate is higher than the average e-commerce site is, it's still a little bit lower than what the organic Amazon conversion rate is. So please keep that in mind. And then two, as I mentioned before, you're not really able to measure the power of these campaigns as a touch point. So beyond any conversions that are made directly from your advertisement, if they're able to come back later through organic, that currently is unable to be measured. So don't get down if your ROI or your ACoS is high. It's something that, these campaigns will have a bit more power than what's truly being represented here.
Okay, thank you, Rob. I know a lot of you had that question, so hopefully that was a good answer for y'all to start your AdWords. So Ryan, I have a question for you. It's actually from an audience member named Ryan as well. Are there any opportunities to use Amazon's first-party data, like customer match, RLSAs, et cetera, to enhance your AdWord campaigns? Is there any way that you can extract that information from Amazon, that first-party data?
So using first-party data from Amazon, the data that you could translate over and using Google AdWords would be focused on, customer search terms, keywords, things like that might be equivalent on the Google AdWords side. That's where I would start. Certainly start with your sales data, your own conversion data coming from Amazon, and also that search terms and keywords data. Rob, do you have something you want to add?
Yeah, and the only other thing that I can think to add to that as well is that you're able to add essentially a remarketing list on your AdWords campaigns based on a customer match. What this can essentially mean is that if you do have, a list of emails that are people that have previously converted or people that have subscribed maybe to something on your own site, you're able to add that as an additional layer of targeting on your AdWords campaigns. So that can serve a little bit to your point as well, even if that data isn't coming from Amazon itself.
Okay, that's great. So you actually touched on another question that we had from someone in the audience, Ian, who asked if you've attempted web to Amazon as a retargeting strategy specifically, or if this was more of a top to middle part of the funnel strategy. But I guess you just mentioned that web to Amazon could work as a retargeting strategy.
Potentially, at CPC Strategy, we do most of our retargeting if we're talking about AdWords through display. Display, generally speaking, does convert a bit lower than either search or shopping listings would. It's also a little bit interesting to see because we have experimented with it, but I can't really give any concrete details as to whether or not that's going to be a useful strategy moving forward. All of this is so new with the store insights and everything that we found a lot of success through the search and text ads, and we are exploring other options, but I can't really give any hard details on the success of those channels yet.
Okay, fair. So Ian, hopefully you got a little bit of insight there as well. So I have a question, Ryan, maybe Rob, you as well can answer, but what's the difference when you're directing consumers to an Amazon store versus directly to a product detail page? I know that we spoke about this and it has to do with the insights that you can see in the Amazon store insights, but can you break it down to the audience why you would direct consumers to an Amazon store versus directly to a product detail page, and maybe save some clicks, and so really just the benefits of directing to an Amazon store?
Definitely. Yeah, the biggest advantage is going to be the ability to measure the metrics in that campaign. So if you're driving Google traffic directly to a product detail page, sure, that's great. That'll help that detail page get additional traffic, external traffic, a lot of new detail page visits, potentially conversions, but you're not going to be able to track anything other than how much you're spending on the AdWords and the performance metrics associated with the ad itself. You're not going to be able to see your sales. You're not going to be able to see how much of that traffic is converting on that given detail page versus brand halo. So it can be really hard to track and measure the actual efficiency and performance of that campaign. Versus if you're sending traffic to the store, using store insights, you can tag that traffic first of all, so you can separate it depending on what you're doing on the AdWords side, whether you have different ad copies or campaign types. You'll be able to segment that and track performance individually, but you'll also get that sales reporting. And really, that's the only way you're going to get sales reporting for something coming externally, is to do it through the store and to do it with source tags.
The only thing I'd add to that as well is depending on what sort of campaign you're looking to run. If it is more upper funnel and prospecting, it can be a really good value add to send people, rather than just to the product they were looking for, to your brand's storefront as a whole. It'll be able to make a good first impression and let them see who you are as a company and get a better idea as to what all you can provide. So in terms of new customer acquisition, sending traffic to your individual storefront can serve you a little bit better that way as it's opposed to a specific product description page.
Okay, thank you both. And then this will be the final question. We got a lot of questions in respect to the source tags, and basically how do you come up with these and how do you work that out a little bit. That's a source tag is something that you come up with yourself. Is this correct, Rob?
Yeah, exactly. And I know the slides will be sent out after this presentation, so that's going to help quite a bit, because I think slide 9 or so gave a little bit more details as to what the actual URL has to look like. Essentially, what you're going to be doing is you're going to be taking out the specific data that's in the URL that's specific to the category page, and adding that after the Amazon.com URL. The way that you're able to find that most easily is if you go to your storefront and you go to the specific category page, you're actually able to highlight and copy part of that URL from there. And so that's kind of shown in that one slide in a bit more detail. And then after that, you're able to add your unique tag. It's pretty similar to how you'd set up any sort of UTM. So if you're looking for more information on that, that'd be a good place to look as well.
Okay, great. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, as Rob mentioned, we will be sending out the slides as well as a recording, so you guys can look at your own leisure at the slides in respect to tagging and whatever other content you want to review for your reference. But that about wraps it up. We hit noon. Unfortunately, we have run out of time. Again, our apologies for the technical difficulties. Thought we could make this video happen, but I guess too much bandwidth for us, but we'll try to work towards this for our future webinars. So thank you, Ryan and Rob. Did a great job, provided a ton of insights and value to our audience. So thank you. And also big thank you to all of our guests. Thank you for your patience, and thank you for tuning into today's webinar. We really appreciate your time. We know that an hour, is a lot of your time, and we appreciate that you spent it here with us. And I hope we were able to address your doubts on Web to Amazon and provide you with some tips to start building out your own strategy. So once again, this is Analicia, and we're signing off from CPC Strategy in San Diego.